Hi, everybody, and welcome to Reinvention Conversations from the Front Porch, episode 38. I'm your host, Hollis Thomases, founder of Reinvention Works, and today my guest is Sana Rasul. So, just so that you remember, we believe that reinvention is a choice, and Reinvention Works is a platform that's designed to empower people and businesses to take control of their next future through tools, networking, and education. This program is meant to inspire you by hearing about programs of real reinventionists, their story, and their journey. So now I'm going to stop my screen share and you're going to meet Sana. Sana, say hi.
Hi guys, how are you?
Sana, thanks so much for being with me today. I'm so excited to get your story. And I want to let everybody know that you are the founder and CEO of your own online community called HR Girlfriends. So I'd love to hear the story of how you got here and what you did before. And I'm going to turn the floor over to you so you can tell us in so many words your own story. So here you go.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me, Hollis. This is so exciting. I've been looking forward to this. So HR Girlfriends and who I am, I started HR Girlfriends and I call it a beautiful accident. I was minding my own business in an HR career that I absolutely loved. I worked really hard to get there, and actually becoming an HR professional was chapter 2 in my life. I'd spent the first part of my life in property management and real estate, and I wanted something more. And so I came across an organization called HR Girlfriends. It was this de facto sort of ad hoc deal, and the woman running it said, "I can't do this anymore. How about you take over?" And my life has never been the same. And it's a good thing. I've been able to empower myself, a community of women across the country, and really globally. I get to speak to women in HR and continents that I never would imagine and that I've never been to before. And that's awesome. And I think for me, HR Girlfriends is really about ensuring that women have a platform to be their most authentic selves. I have come from a background where I was encouraged to be more, but I wasn't necessarily given the tools. I had a lot of self-determination and I wanted to be more than my environment. And so I was allowed to do that, but I had to find my own way. And so now I know how tough that is. And I want to, as much as possible, give women a roadmap. And even if I can't give you the roadmap, connect you to the women that can help you get there. I get to do personal and professional development with HR Girlfriends. I'm interested in the whole woman, not half the woman. Our motto is you're more than your 9 to 5. And we want to make sure that women understand that and that they're taking care of themselves on and off the clock. So I'm so excited to be here and talk to you more about what I'm doing.
Fantastic. So I want to back up a second to something that you said, which is that you started your career in real estate and commercial property and that you wanted something more. So what was it that you felt you were lacking that led to you feeling that you wanted more? And then how did you have the courage or make the decision to pursue something more? How did you not get stuck?
Good question. We spend so much time at work, and because of my upbringing, I was working very early in life. I had my first job at 14, summer job, and at 16, I was working in fast food restaurants and Walmart. So I've been working all my life. So from that early experience, which a lot of people would have had disdain for, I grew into a place where I knew that working was going to be the way it was. So I might as well be happy or enjoy what I'm doing. And so in property management and real estate, I loved it. It was the mix between business and interacting with people, but I found myself doing more triage than I wanted to do. And I said, you know what? I want a role that helps me be the best me. And I thought, how can I transition into a career where I can help people? Because that's really how I fuel myself. And how can I handle business and really be in corporate America? And HR came about. And I actually thought I was going to be a trainer. I thought, I could totally stand in front of a room and talk to people and train. the irony is as much as I enjoy training, that is not the part of HR I love as much as others. But that's how I got here. And the transition wasn't necessarily easy. It's like one foot in front of the other. You know, when I was in property management, the great part about that industry was it took me 10 years to get my undergraduate degree.
Wow.
Because I had to work while I was, you know, going to school. And there were times when I had to take semesters off. And so I'm coming through my 20s working and schooling and working. And I was able to move up quickly and earn a great salary in that field. So some people would find themselves stuck, right? I just told myself a long time ago that I couldn't let money be the reason I was stagnant. That if I were going to be great, I can make money in anything I do as long as I'm happy. And so I decided to finish my undergraduate degree and immediately thereafter start a master's program in HR. That gave me leverage to now enter into chapter 2.
Gotcha. So you answered a lot of my questions that, as you were talking, I was thinking of. Like you said that you were, you know, realizing that you wanted to do more to help people, and HR presented itself. So did HR present itself? You just mentioned, you know, you finished getting your undergrad, you went right on to get your master's, but what was your aha moment? Did you research, I want to help people, and what kind of careers? Because you could have been a nurse. You know, you could have been a teacher, a not necessarily a corporate trainer, but, you know, a schoolroom teacher. Why HR? How did that come into your landscape?
That's a good question. I remember having interactions with HR professionals and companies that I worked for, and I remember not having bad experiences. I then was working for a recruiting firm, the first exposure to HR-related careers at a staffing firm, and there was a trainer that came in to teach us a diversity topic. I thought I could totally do this. So I'm watching her and I'm paying attention, I'm sure.
Right.
But thinking, oh, this is who I want to be. This is it.
Got it. Got it. Cool. So it was sort of, you mentioned like in the beginning, it was an accident, and that was your pivotal accidental, you know, beautiful accident, because you saw this person and you saw yourself doing that role, and that gave you the information that you needed to pursue this path.
Absolutely.
Got it. Got it.
Having a vision for yourself.
Right.
I just always knew, no matter where I was, that there was more in store for me. And if I were to tell you I knew where that came from, I can't. But I can tell you that anytime I was in a tough spot, a job I hated, underpaid, I said, life's got to be better than this.
So that brings me to another thing that you've already talked about, and that I mentioned when I was introducing Reinvention Works, that I believe that reinvention is a choice, and you have been very deliberate and intentional, both in your mindset, your frame of mind, and your choices. You've made these decisions, whether they're visions of, you know, self-conviction and belief, or I'm not going to make money the focal point of my life, or I'm not going to be in a job that isn't what makes me feel fulfilled. You know, when you come across other people, maybe they've asked you the same question about your pivot, your story. Do you talk about this aspect of choice? Do you even realize how deliberate you have been?
You just opened up my eyes a little bit, because the answer is not in that context. You know, it's funny how people are very complimentary of the story when I give them the rundown, but the truth is I didn't see it necessarily as this intentional life I was trying to lead. But when you bring it up in that way, yeah, I guess it was intentional. And the truth of the matter is I try to be as transparent as possible. I had no idea where I was going. I thought that I'd be a happy HR professional, and that the most I'd have to worry about is which great company to work for now that I'm in this career I love. Who knew that I'd be running a community that has global exposure and is really making a difference?
Right. But again, that was a choice you decided to do.
Yes.
You know, so I also want to touch on the fact that you said that you finished your undergrad and went straight into getting your master's, and now you have lots of long initials after your name in your title. So do you feel that did you have to go and further your education? Did you want to just improve your chances as you pivoted, or was it, I don't want to say a crutch, but did it help build your confidence as you were pivoting out of something and into something very different?
Absolutely. I did my homework and I knew that in the HR field, people weren't just handing out jobs. Now, I'm not old enough to remember HR when it was the personnel department. But as I was coming into this phase where I said, something's got to give, I want more, I started looking around, talking to people. I would research job ads. I would get online and research job ads, not because I was looking for an HR job. No one would hire me. I had no exposure. It was, what are organizations looking for? I saw that they were looking for letters behind certain folks' names. They were looking for a skill set that I knew I could do. I just didn't have it solidified. So that's why I used a master's degree in human resource management to pivot in that way. I get asked that question a lot, and that's really what I did.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to talk about, you were drawn to HR girlfriends because you didn't have the tools when you weren't taught the tools or given the tools when you were growing up. And then you saw this opportunity to create a tool set for this industry that you decided to enter. And you and I share that because you have a community and I'm building the community, and we're both inspired to provide support and tools and resources. So what kind of support and resources did you get as you were doing your pivot? And did that inform or inspire you to go into and take on HR Girlfriends?
That's a good question. Although I come from what I would deem a dysfunctional upbringing family, my siblings and my mom are still complimentary and encouraging. And, I'm the one in my family who sort of excelled beyond, and I take that very seriously. And so their support for me doing more and wanting more was really a catalyst. But also, I envisioned how I would want to spend my life. I thought, if I'm lucky, I'll live past the averages of age. And how do I want to spend my life? I've always been this way. I was a girl in college who went to bed at a decent hour because I needed sleep and I needed fun. And I was going to figure out how to get the balance. It's about balance.
That's true.
Yeah, it's about balance.
Absolutely. So, oftentimes I ask my guests about their reinvention journey, and was it an accident or was it intentional? And, no doubt yours is intentional. But did you encounter any obstacles along the way? And, how did you overcome them? How did you write your course? How did you cope in the midst of all those obstacles?
Good question. I am a proponent of self-care. I always have been. Self-care is very different for different people, but you have to tap into that. You have to understand, who am I and how does this work? I am all about taking care of myself through physical self-care, through mental self-care. I think it's important to understand that there is no shame and no recourse if you don't do that. So I would see a therapist, a coach, I'd get massages, I would play, I'd take vacations, even if it meant staycations. There's so many things I've done along the way to get there.
Yeah.
Take care of myself. And I'm happy about that. And those things have developed over time.
Yeah. So, in addition to having, I think, a very clear sense of self and awareness, do you feel like, were you always a risk taker? You do your homework, you're methodical. I know that about you. But when somebody reinvents, it's a bit risky. What do you feel about your risk tolerance?
I've got a pretty moderate to high risk tolerance. All my risks are calculated. I think about them. But here's my thing. I always tell my significant other, he's risk averse and I'm not. So we make a good match, right? I know. And so there's nothing I can't recover from except death. And that's the truth. I mean, listen, I have gone through financial lows. You know, I supported myself through college, through everything. I didn't have anyone to do that for me. And in fact, I supported my family members when I had financial highs. And so, you know, there's all kinds of challenges we have. There's all kinds of breakdowns. I allow myself to have low moments. It's okay. Yeah. And I try not to beat myself up about them. But once I have simmered in it, okay, what do we do next? And so the risks come in being vulnerable. The risks come in asking for help.
But that's a big part of, you know, turning to whoever is in your support network. And that support network provides you with a safe place to be vulnerable and to feel okay to ask for help.
Right. And sometimes what I want people to know is that you're in control of your support network, that we're given family and sometimes friends sort of form along the way. But the truth is you're never stuck with your support system. If you feel that the people in your life aren't giving you the support you need, sometimes it's okay to pivot there.
Right.
You know? And so you think about, well, who can support me? Sometimes it's the random stranger.
Yep.
Sometimes it's a community like HR Girlfriends or Reinvention Works. You have to figure out that. And it doesn't mean you dump those that are no longer serving you. But what it means is you have to develop a new reality for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Very wise. So what has been like the most rewarding part of having reinvented into what you are now?
Oh, man. You know what? I know a lot of people have bucket lists. I don't even need a bucket list. I just do it. If it's possible and it's within reach, and even when it's not, I'm there. And, you know, the most gratifying part is that I'm happy. But I also have joy, because those are two different things. And I'm content most days. And when it's bad, it's never that bad. So how I operate during my day and how I feel about where I am in life is probably the most rewarding part.
Great. Now, how about mistakes? Can you share any of your big mistakes on this journey and what you might have learned from them?
Yes. Some of my mistakes come under the theme of staying too long. You know, as a business owner and as a professional, but before those things, I'm human. And I think a human defect is that we stay too long in relationships, in jobs. We stay too long in places we don't have any business being, but it's because we don't have the courage or the ability. We think we're limited. It's all in our perception. So we allow our limitations to keep us places. And that's been one of my biggest growth opportunities, is when I was realizing that a job was no longer working for me.
Right.
I moved on. But some of my mistakes were in my business. I stayed too long. I'd have initiatives that I thought were great for the community. No one was responding. And I'd go, no, but this is amazing. I know it's good. And all the HR girlfriends, all I hear was chirps in the background. No one would sign up. No one would do things. But I had a vision. And so I said to myself, okay, am I in business for myself, or am I in business to serve? So I had to pivot. I'm actually in a pivot right now, coming out of that mistake.
Yep.
So I had to remind myself who's who.
Yep. Very good. And what was like your most successful achievement during this?
I've had several. I love when I get emails and I get notes from women that I've interacted with, I've communicated with, and they're so grateful. Hollis, I have talked to women driving down the turnpike on my way to see my mom in New York City. I've taken calls on a Saturday morning running errands from women who just want to know, how do I break into HR? Or how did you do what you do? I give of myself. I used to give too much of myself, so I had to learn limits, but I still give of myself. And that's gotta be the most rewarding. It's just knowing that I am really making a difference, if only for picking up the phone.
Nice, really good. So if we're going to help other people who are thinking about this journey, who, well, what kind of, maybe if you could give them 3 specific concrete pieces of advice to either get started or get unstuck, what would you tell them?
I would first tell them that it's important to know what you don't know. Know what you don't know, and that's okay. And understand that you don't know what you don't know. And you have to go to places that help you explore that. And sometimes we have to go to events and talk to people that will be considered unconventional to get there. I would also say that reinventing yourself, there is not one fell swoop. It is a process. And that patience is so important, because the path you think you're designing will always take a veer, will always sort of do what it's going to do. And you've just got to be ready for the tip to turns.
Mm-hmm.
And allow yourself to fail. Be open about your failures, because there's growth. You can help someone else, but most importantly, helping yourself. When you hold close to your chest the things that aren't working well because you are afraid of looking bad and not living up to the things you think are why people like you or need you, you're doing yourself a disservice.
This is such a good segue, because what I wanted to do in the last part of our interview was kind of bring this around to what you do professionally now, and the place of reinvention in that. This is a unique opportunity, because most of the time I'm interviewing people who have reinvented, but they're not involved in, reinvention kind of as an adjunct to what they do professionally. It's just what they did. But in the space of HR, what do you see, where do you see the place for the kind of process that you and I have both been on in business?
I think that there's always a place for reinvention. I think if we're looking at the organizations as a whole, in order to be successful, you have to reinvent yourself. As you look at organizations taking the lead, one company starts, live periscoping, and then the other comes on and does the same thing but tries to do it differently. Those are reinventing. And if we can see ourselves as malleable and as having infinite possibilities in the business landscape, we can make so many changes. I think instead of thinking of yourself as independent of what you're doing, you are a critical part of that, whether you're working for yourself or you're working for someone else.
Yeah. And what do you think, when companies are trying to pivot themselves, our own journeys are hard enough as individuals. So you take this big lumbering behemoth and you try to change direction. And what do you think about the process as it relates to, HR playing the role? Do you play the role of mediator? Do you play the role of information disseminator? Do you play the role of coach? What is the role? And what should the role be if it's not right now?
Gotcha. I think all of those things is HR's role. And I think that in any situation, you think about your relationship with your organization or HR's relationship to the bigger picture, no different than any other relationship in your life. There are going to be times when you have to be the mediator, but that isn't the permanent position. And really and truly in any relationship, working or personal, you have to be prepared to play all roles. And some you're really good at and some you're not. And when you know you're not good at it, say you're not good at it, bring in some backup and make it a team effort. And I think that's really the way to look at it, is no one person, no one organization can solve the problem. You're just a contributor to the solution.
And I've heard, when I talk about what I do and bringing it into companies, I think there's a fear factor. Well, if we teach this to our people, aren't they going to want to leave and reinvent themselves professionally? Well, I have my answer to that, but what would be your answer to that?
It's so funny you brought that up, because I was having this thought pattern yesterday as I was coaching one of my clients, saying to myself, as an HR professional working for an organization, I can tell you that I'm happy to help someone be where they think they need to be. There is no service to anyone when you have an employee who is disconnected from your goals, your mission, and your bottom line. I and you, in the reality of it all, sure, you've got a warm body, but is that what you're looking for? If you're interested in warm bodies, then you are in the right place. I actually help people do what they want to do. And sometimes I look at my employees and I say, I know this seems pretty strange coming from HR, but if you're not happy, how can we help you? I can fill your role. As much as we'll miss you, I'm okay. Mm-hmm. Businesses need to understand that the better suited an individual is, the better off they are. They want more productivity. I mean, look, we're the only country that works as hard as we do, and yet we don't have as much results as we'd like. There's a correlation.
Right. There's a problem there. Totally agree. What about the notion of helping people perhaps be retrained to find what it is that they want to do more within the same company? And are companies getting to a point now where they are ready for that? Or is that still years out? Is it better to retain a good person who may not be happy in their job anymore? Or is it just like, let's try to slough the person off because we have a very rigid view of their role?
There is a lot of rigidity in organizations because it's not very complementary to the bottom line to necessarily care about all those intricacies. And that's not to say that big companies, large companies, whatever size, don't care about their people, but people are more than their 9 to 5s. You have to make sure you're feeding and fueling people on all levels. There is still too small of a percentage of companies that even have internal coaching or provide coaching on an external level. The other problem is coaching is usually only provided when paid for by an organization, or services like yours or mine, only when it's an executive, right? I want to only prune those I think have highest potential. The problem is that you could get potential out of others if you would just take care of them in that way. So I really have a goal of igniting this movement where organizations see that it's more than the C-suite. The C-suite is such a small percentage of the operations that I can't imagine. Why would you want high-performing leaders to lead a pack of people you don't believe in?
Right. I'm so with you, but, for obvious reasons.
Right.
There's a futurist who spoke about the future of work, mm-hmm. which is, probably an interview we can do for round 2. I'd love to get your perspective on the future of work. But one of the things I thought was really interesting that he brought up is that he calls it the donut hole effect. So you have, seasoned professionals who have, risen to whatever role, and you have young millennials who don't stick around in a job for more than 3 years now. So first of all, there's constant churn at the younger level, but the Gen Xers, mostly people who are kind of approaching middle age now, because they can't go farther because the senior execs are staying in their positions longer, they're also going, well, there's no upward mobility for me here. And if I still want to get that, or go farther in my life than I've achieved right now, I got to leave too.
Yeah.
So there's this whole donut hole of not enough knowledge in the middle management level, and all this heavy weight at the top, and then this churn at the bottom, either because people are not skilled or trained or don't stick around in the job long enough. And it doesn't bode well, like if there's, just this hole that keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. What do you think about that? And I like your idea about the internal coaching and development. Do you think that if there was more internal coaching and development that something like a millennial would stick around longer?
Absolutely. Whenever I'm coaching for an organization, my goal is never to coach a person out of the role. The first place we go is, how do we keep you here? Why do you show up every day? And how do we make that better? How do we give you more reasons to come to work beyond a paycheck? And then I'm looking at, well, what have you not tried in your current situation? We explore that before we go external. But sometimes it's time for a person to move on. And the donut hole effect is so interesting on how it was described, because it's true. If you don't develop those below the executive level, you will continue to have this problem. You will have the warm body syndrome. And if you're okay with a role being filled for a temporary amount of time, and you've built that into your bottom line, good for you, but that's not productive.
Right.
And I'm really hoping that organizations see that coaching their middle managers and even the millennials, the lower staff on the org chart, that there's potential, that you can coach someone into identifying what they want to do. The reason I believe so many of us jump around is because we're trying to find our sweet spot and we don't know what we're looking for. And even when we think we have an idea, we're drawn to company brand names and certain benefits. Oh, they'll pay for this, they'll do that. But that's not important, because what you're really looking for is a job where you can serve people. So no matter how great XYZ company's benefits are and how tall the building is, that's not going to help you, or how prestigious that looks on your resume. So I think if you're coaching people, you're coaching them in a way where they understand who they are, if who they are ties into what you're doing, and how they can connect to that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I also think that one of the reasons that millennials in particular don't stick around, they're doing that soul searching, and I think that's completely fair. I like to point out that before I took my last corporate job, I wasn't at a company for more than 14 months. So I'm even better than 3 years, and I'm not a millennial, yay. But
Yeah.
I wonder too, if we go to school, we go and get our education. Most people get it in 4 years. And then we're going to school to prepare and plan for a better future. We realize somehow that if we get this education, it's going to help us advance ourselves. But then we're done with school, whether it's our undergrad or our master's, and somehow it seems like most people forget the whole idea that I went to get this education to help better myself.
Yeah.
And so it's like the switch gets turned off. I'm done with that. And I don't think that as many people do what you do, which is kind of constant care and feeding of your personal development and your personal well-being. So I wonder, as you were talking, if internal coaching was institutionalized, was a part of what companies offered their people, it would remind them. It's like a changing of behavior.
Absolutely.
That I don't think exists today. And because we become adults, we don't want to listen to our parents anymore, and there isn't really somebody, unless you have the benefit of a mentor who's pushing this to you. And frankly, not everybody has the benefit of a mentor. Some people don't even know that they can ask for a mentor. They can look for a mentor. They can find a mentor. If you happen to be fortunate and a mentor comes to you and you're embracing that person, that's the best. But a lot of people don't ever have that, and they don't even think that they can have that. And so barring the notion of a mentor who tells you to do this, internal coaching might be a way to get that inculcated. What do you think about that? I mean, is that going on now?
Not as much as it should be. I mean, there are billions and billions of dollars being made, but we still have high turnover and we still have a lot of discontentment. I don't care which survey people are looking at, the numbers aren't like swayed. It's high.
No, it's high. It's half.
It's half. And so my favorite example of an organization that did it right and continues to do it right, I love Zappos. If you love shoes, you know Zappos. I became so enamored with Zappos. I was like, oh my God, this awesome company. What I liked about what they do and are doing is Zappos was based out of San Francisco when they first got started. They decided they were going to move to Nevada. And what they did was they asked all of their staff, who wants to go with me? They had almost, I think, 70% of their staff move from California to Nevada, Henderson, Nevada.
In the desert.
Right. And we're not talking about super uber high paid people. They were making a decent wage, but we aren't talking about C-suite execs. We're talking about customer service reps, different things like that. Why? Because Zappos created a culture in which they coached their staff. They created a culture of support, of fun, of connectivity. They have a full-time on-site coach. Her job is to coach the staff at all levels. Customer service reps who answer the phone and take customer orders and complaints get the same level of coaching that their manager gets. Sure, the conversation may look different. They have different goals, but that access is equal. How awesome is that? So when you look at that, you go, they're doing something right. You had almost all your staff move with you.
Yeah.
And they're staying. And then the other part of it is that they pay their people in orientation. If you don't think we are for you, we will pay you to leave. We will pay you before the orientation period is over to leave us. I think it's $2,000. That is a commitment to growth of their people because they understand whether you're answering the phones or not. If I can keep you here and keep you content, keep you coached up, there's more for both of us.
Right. Right. I think that's a fantastic example.
Yeah.
And I guess I also wonder about the perception of most corporations these days as not being very compassionate towards employees. And that's another reason why millennials who saw like their boomer parents work really, really hard and then get laid off, they don't trust a corporation to take care of them. They don't believe that the corporation is operating in any interest towards its employees. And so therefore there's this like, I am just going to go and be a warm body and get a paycheck because I don't really think that you care about me sticking around or not, unless you're one of the chosen ones. So like, I think that another thing that corporate America has to counteract if they want to have any workforce in the future is how do you develop people that don't trust you? Corporations don't want to invest in people, and then the people don't want to stick around for the same reason that the corporation doesn't invest in. It's like a bad vicious circle.
Absolutely. I truly believe it's about the culture. Whenever I work for an organization, I am most concerned about what is the culture. How much change do I have to enact to have it be the type of place where there is trust, there's an open door policy, and it really starts with what does the higher up, the C-suite, really believe about the working environment? How do they feel and see their people? Because then the message that level communicates to the executives and to the managers is the same thing that they will then communicate to those who are actually pushing the work. You have to believe that people are important and that they're more than just helping your money grow.
Right.
They are critical to your process. It's funny how it used to be important to organizations to not only have employees that did the work, but also believed in the company. Because then when you were in the community, you would say, oh no, this GE's great, or XYZ is awesome, and buy your tires from the guy I work for. That's less important now. I don't know if it's because of the increased global exposure and people say they're going to buy it anyway. And maybe they think as a society, we care less about that. I don't know, but I am trying to help change the landscape of that.
Yeah.
Employees are important.
Well, I mean, not to bring politics into the conversation, but if we are in a time of pivot in our own country, it's going to be change in the administration, and the promises have been about bringing outsourced jobs back to the United States. And so, as opposed to, you really don't impose culture on outsourced contractors, but when they become your employees again, if truly companies are going to be required or whatever to bring people back into the corporation, and that our American citizens are hired, I think this is going to open that floodgate discussion about, compassion and culture and how people are treated. It's going to be another interesting dialogue. Again, probably something to pursue for round two.
I know, my eyes are getting big. I'm going, Hollis, are you kidding me? I think it's the big TBD ...
Well, we might as well lay the groundwork now. Come on.
It's true. It's true. I think there's so many pieces to what you just brought up, but I think most importantly, most of these organizations that have global and international operations still base themselves here in the States. And so for me, their cultures are different. The reasons I would work for a company in another country are very different than the US American culture. And organizations just need to get with it. I get really upset when I see companies go, oh, we've lost a profit of XYZ this quarter. They make it seem as if they're poor. You're not poor, and if you would spend more of your money developing the people, you wouldn't have some of these problems.
Amen.
Someone has to believe that, and someone has to push that. And I think it's a movement. And honestly, I think with the work that you and I are both doing and others within this sort of landscape, we're going to hopefully see some change, because I'm very communicative about that. I always tell people, I get it. I understand it. I am HR and have been, and I have people who are in HR and understand this thing. And if you don't get it, you will get it, but you'll be forced to.
Exactly.
Right? Sort of like politics.
It's just going to be shoved down your throat one way or the other.
Live in a bubble if you want. It won't change reality.
Right. I couldn't agree more. All right. Well, on that note, we are so passionate. Can you tell?
This has been so much fun.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen one more time, and I'm going to show everybody how they can get a hold of you if they would like to. So here we go. So here's how you can get in touch with Sana, folks, if you want to be in touch with her and her community. And you can see she knows what she's doing. So her email is info@hrgirlfriends.com. Her website is www.hrgirlfriends.com. She's on Twitter @hrgirlfriends. And I'm sure you're on Facebook too. I didn't get that from you, but do you want to say it out loud?
Yeah, I'm at www.facebook.com/hrgirlfriends. So
okay, great. Thank you.
/hrgirlfriends.
And so just a reminder, you can visit our website, reinventionworks.com, to see recordings of not only Sana's interview, but past webcasts of Reinventionists. You can sign up for our email newsletter. You can shop our educational store. And we hope you take advantage of all the information and resources we have. And Sana, it's been so wonderful. I really do want to do round two. This is too much fun.
Definitely. Look out for round two, guys.
Round two, guys. All right. So thank you so much, and take care.
Bye.
Bye.